and Lakedima seemed to be caught up in her own internal conflict. A young leopard at a confusing crossroads of life, torn between being a predator and an inquisitive cub. Perhaps something more maternal and compassionate started to grow within her at that moment. Finally, both settled down to sleep, exhausted by the event, cuddling for hours against the winter chill. It was the cold that finally made the baby baboon go quiet, and Lakedima left the body to feed on the mother. But for a moment, the night had been filled with strangeness. Africa is so good at divulging little secrets, just when we think that we know it all so well. There are many myths and legends dancing around these ancient forests, where the owls call your name, and the distant hippos speak to the gods. Another layer of mystery was added. The night the leopard lay down with the baboon. When her mother came back from her own hunt, Lakedima had quite a surprise waiting for her. She could smell blood and knew that the baboons had been through. Greetings between them then were always an explosion of playful rough and tumble, but this time, when her mother darted up the tree to the source of the blood, Lakedima's reaction was a shock to her. It was a vicious attack. Her mother's surprising retreat was perhaps a recognition of that turning point and Lakedima's right to defend her own kill. If it had all ended there, perhaps it would have been all right. But they were back, combing the forest for their lost companion and her new baby. Despite her success, Lakedima knew she'd have to give ground. The nightmarish attacks by baboons were still imprinted on her memory. She had the confidence to defend herself against her mother, but not against the baboons. She abandoned her kill. Her exposed fangs were a clear signal that this leopard had been pushed too far. Now her display focused on the root of the problem, her own confused cub, Lakedima. She spat her fury at her daughter, as if she were a lifelong enemy and hated rival. No longer a slayer of baboons or heroic defender against hyenas, Lakedima regressed to submissive displays in a desperate attempt to stop the frenzied wrath of her mother. It was an intense moment, so defining a shift that from then on, Lakedima would no longer be her mother's cub. It was over. They both knew it. From that moment on, she was condemned to the natural, solitary life of an adult leopard. How she would survive the future would be up to her, and her alone. One last rite of passage remains for Lakedima. No leopard has genuinely come of age until they have killed an impala. From the beginning, her mother was an excellent huntress and a good teacher. When Lakedima was just 4 months old, her mother was already passing on that legacy. Even then, for this step-by-step hunting education, impala was the prey of choice. It was a vitally important introduction. She could learn a lot from a dead animal, relying on her play instincts to pounce and attack. But it was only with a live animal that she was going to refine that and see a real example of what it means to hunt. She had a diligent tutor. This would cement the foundations of all her hunting skills. And she tasted the slightly tangy fragrance of fresh impala in her mouth for the first time. The cub was still much too enthralled with the newness of it all, but something within her was starting to reveal itself. Lakedima was beginning to understand the chase, even the catch. She recognized that something else was needed, but her mother wasn't helping her understand. It was a confusing and hard lesson to learn. Those first moments of innocent understanding are exquisite. The beauty of innocence is in its total acceptance of life and death in equal measure. The cub's apparent harshness is no more than the continuation of a process that has been going on since leopards first evolved 3.5 million years ago, a process that builds predators. Something triggered inside. The chase and the catch were merely prelude to the kill.